Hello. Okay. Gran Turismo, directed by Neill Blomkamp. Now, I'm a big fan of Neill Blomkamp. I absolutely adore District 9. I actually quite liked Chappie. And I didn't mind Elysium, but I haven't seen his latest movie, Demonic. And so I was quite intrigued, interested to see how he would take on a completely different genre, really, which is, it's not science fiction. So yeah, you've got Gran Turismo. It's based on the racing simulation video game series of the same name and based on the true story of Djimon, a teenage Gran Turismo player who was able to become a professional race car driver. So, Gran Turismo. The first 10 to 20 minutes, for me, I found to be quite bumpy and just kind of hard to watch. And a lot of it is just down to the way in which the story is structured. I found it to be quite messy. And just, along with the editing, it was just a little bit messy in which sort of how the narrative was structured, the way in which they introduced us to these characters and this story. And the dialogue in this movie is so cheesy and cliched that, yes, I found it difficult to watch. Those first 10 to 20 minutes of the movie, for me, was the bumpiest. But once the movie starts to get going and Djimon, gets behind the actual wheel of a racing car, that's when the film really started to pick up for me and became a much more pleasant ride, a much more pleasant experience. And I found myself really enjoying this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, those first 10 to 20 minutes, yes, it was a bit bumpy for me. I'm not a fan of the dialogue, but a lot of the performances I really dug, including the actor playing Djimon. The actor playing our lead is an Archie Madekwe, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I just think I felt he gave a very natural and real performance and had this vulnerability about him which allowed me to buy into his character and his journey. You've got this boy coming from a working class family playing video games and he ends up in, behind the wheel of an actual motorsport vehicle. It's because of his performance and the performance of other actors, as well as the actor playing his father, a Djimon Hounsou. Again, apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly, but the actor playing his dad also gave this real, very kind of raw, kind of natural performance, and you could feel the kind of love and the frustrations between these characters. So what really got me through those first 10 to 20 minutes really was a lot of the performances, apart from Orlando Bloom's, which let's just leave Orlando Bloom to the side a moment. But everyone else, I just thought, allowed me to really buy into this experience, because at the same time, I wasn't aware of this story. I know I'm from Wales, if you can't tell by my accent, and I don't live far from Cardiff. And I've never heard of the story, so I'm not entirely sure how much of this film, how much of the actual story within this movie is actual fact. But I do believe just through these performances, it just allowed me to really buy into the journey. And just while we're on the subject of Wales and that our characters are Welsh, it kind of made me chuckle that there isn't a Welsh accent in this movie. And with the first part of the movie being based in Cardiff, to me it clearly just didn't look like Cardiff. So it kind of made me chuckle a little bit, as well as a few other little inaccuracies perhaps. And just going back to the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie where they're setting up the character and they're setting up his background, there's a lot within this part of the movie they could have just taken out, but I feel like there was also a lot more they could have put in to just really focus more perhaps on the character of Djimon and his relationship with his mother and his father, which it's there, but I kind of just feel like it needed to be a bit more focused, and I just felt like there was a lot more other aspects of his life that I felt like we didn't really need and just felt a little bit odd and out of place, and I felt perhaps would have made it less messy. But I've heard a lot of criticism saying that you could have easily cut, say, 30 minutes of this movie out, especially a lot of those sort of setup scenes during the beginning. I disagree with that. For me, the length worked. It's a 2-hour, 15-minute movie, and for me, it worked. I just feel like perhaps they needed a bit more focus on other aspects in those first 10 to 15 minutes. you know, with Jan Mardenborough's love for gaming. Like, it's all there, it's touched upon, but it's just a little bit messy in how it's told. But I do think they did quite a good job at, you know, the film. It's an underdog story, and it's a very kind of good old-fashioned underdog story, and it's about chasing your dreams. And do you know what? It emotionally resonated with me, and I really wasn't expecting the movie to do that. And I just think it's the way they do it is simple, but it's effective. And, you know, there are moments throughout this movie that it just emotionally resonated with me, because not just myself, but millions of people can relate to this story, you know, when it comes to chasing your dreams and coming perhaps from a less privileged background. And so there's a lot of real world elements to the story that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to and connect to. And it doesn't get too bogged down by it, but it has a very kind of, and I've heard another critic say this, it has a rocky feel about it. And I have to mention David Harbour as Jan's trainer. He's also, you know, his performance is also very, very good here. A very relatable, very grounded, a natural, organic performance that I really, really dug. He was, you know, along with a lot of the other actors in this movie, just gave really good performances that allowed to just really get me immersed into what was quite a bumpy start for me, with also a script that's not the greatest. So that's an achievement, really. And I really liked how the action, the race scenes were shot in this movie. The way in which Neill Blomkamp uses the camera. There are a couple of decisions that he makes when it comes to the camera that I thought were like, questionable. But for the most part, what he did with the way in which he shot a lot of these racing scenes just really allows it, you know, me as a viewer to be immersed into the moment. It gets the blood pumping. I found them to be quite intense, and you know, you're kind of like, it really sort of just immerses you into the moment. And a lot of it is down to the way in which Blomkamp chose to shoot a lot of these racing scenes, and you get a lot of quick moments of seeing inside the car, and it just does a lot to really suck you into the moment. And so yeah, I really dug the way in which the action was shot. There are a couple of moments which makes you go, oh, you know, you could feel the impact, the pain in particular in certain moments. So yeah, apart from the script really, and you know, that very cheesy, cliched script and that kind of bumpy first 10 to 20 minutes, Gran Turismo, Neill Blomkamp does a solid job at crafting a very good old-fashioned, fun underdog story with some real intense, immersive action scenes. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this movie. I think a lot of people are going to emotionally connect to the character's journey and their story. And I think that's a lot of the reason to why I think a lot of people are going to really kind of enjoy this movie, as well as the fact that it has some really intense, well-made racing scenes, action scenes in this movie. I think a lot of racing fans are going to enjoy this movie as well. I just found myself really enjoying this film. I come away from the movie feeling good and feeling, you know, optimistic. It has that kind of feel-good vibe about it. And like I said, going back to those kind of rocky vibes about the movie. And it was a pleasant surprise. So yeah, I will be giving Gran Turismo a 7 out of 10. So yeah, there are my thoughts on Gran Turismo. Have any of you guys seen it yet? If you have, then let me know below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then let me know below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see future reviews and just general movie talk from a geek in Wales, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next review will be for The Haunted Mansion, which releases tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you liked the video, then please don't forget to hit that like button. And yeah, I'll be catching you guys soon.